Hey guys, I'm finally getting around to doing the video for the end of the year survey. I've been sick the last couple days, and so my voice is still not 100%, but we'll see what happens as this goes. I'm over here today. We got a different angle because I've got the Saints game over here on my side TV. So you'll see the colors probably flicker and change as the commercials and whatever's going on over here changes. Question number one. Post-draft roster freeze. This one is suggested by Pope 1.0, and right now we have a gap in time and the way that our players are handled between the time from the draft and when the season actually starts. There can be, depending on when the draft happens, there can be a week or two in there where it's just a complete free for all. You can pick up people, anybody can grab anybody who comes up. And so if somebody gets hurt that was drafted, then there's no, it's just whoever sees the injuries first. And so that's maybe not the most fair thing that we've ever seen. And so Pope suggested maybe freezing the rosters in between that time frame. So we've got a couple options to vote on here. We can keep the existing policy of all undrafted players becoming a free agent after the draft. All of the players could go on to waivers, and then we just run waivers the Wednesday before week one. So basically, just like a normal week, basically week zero would be the when we'd run waivers. Or we can dump all undrafted players into waivers and don't actually run waivers until week one. So that way, whoever you drafted, that's who you're going to be stuck with. So if there's any injuries in the preseason or anything like that, there's no just, oh, I got to the guy first and nobody gets a chance to get guys sniped. This is something that came up from like the injury that happened with Jerick McKinnon in San Francisco this year with Drew losing him, which it turned out didn't really hurt him at all. But so this is what that vote is about. Question number 2 and 3 kind of go together. So question number 2 is league expansion. We've voted on this a couple times in the past, and the only reason that I put this one in here, and the reason that I was thinking about expansion this year was if we stay with 12 teams, we're going to continue to have this balancing issue where with 12 teams, you're going to have 11 matchups, and there's 2 weeks to fill in with however those matchups happen. Or if we expand to 14 teams, then we have 13 weeks of regular season. 6 teams go to the championship, and 8 teams go to the deuce. It works out pretty nicely if we get to a 14-team count. Going along with that, question number 3, schedule balancing. If we stay at 12 teams and we don't expand, how do we want to deal with the issue of those 2 extra weeks? Right now we've just been, hey, well, we're just going to randomize the schedule, and so whoever gets matched up against whoever, but that's leading to some unbalancing issues where people, let's say, let me look at my spreadsheet here. Nick pointed out that Lee has played 7 games versus Drew, but only 5 versus Eric, Scotty B, and Nick. Drew has played Derek 9 times total, but he's only played Brandon 4 times. So we've got some significant unbalancing issues. So we have a couple options. So we can either expand up to 14 teams, and then that basically wipes the schedule balancing issue out. Or we can stay at 12 teams, and then we got to try to figure out how we want to handle the schedule balancing. So if we do that, we're going to keep randomizing the schedule completely like we're doing now. Or do I try to intentionally balance the schedule to get matchups where you'll play 2 times a year versus teams that you're down on the matchups for? And then there's an option that says, yes, I voted yes for question 2 and want to expand to 14 teams. Questions 4 and 5 kind of go together as well. So question number 4 is, shall we migrate to an alternate platform other than Yahoo? It's pretty yes or no. Do you want to stay on Yahoo or do you want to move to a new platform? And the reason for this question is in here is it was suggested by Pope is that we start implementing double headers. So it's basically you'll set one lineup and you'll play 2 different opponents. It's another way that we could deal with the unbalancing issues where some teams are getting playing against more opponents more often. Unfortunately, Yahoo doesn't enable this right now. It's something that I know is popular on the suggestion list. Like I think it's like number 10, I think, on the suggestions on features that could be added to Yahoo Fantasy Football, but they don't have it right now. So here you get the options. I want to stay on Yahoo. I'm open to moving to a new platform, but I don't want double headers, or I'm open to moving to a new platform and I want double headers. Number 6, the next question is, how do we handle keeper with expiring deals? Right now, keepers have an expiring contract. Let's say like this year, Rob Gronkowski. I can't. After this year, I'm not going to be able to keep him anymore because his deal is expiring. Do we want to modify the way that we handle these keepers with expiring deals so that way we can allow trades to actually happen? Because right now, it's been a couple of years since we've had any trades in this league. If we were to say, okay, whoever's been an expiring deal can be kept for one more year, would we think that that would increase the trade activity in the league, or will it really not matter? So the options that we have are to allow those players to be traded and then kept by their new owners for one more season, or we're going to keep with the existing rules where if it's an expiring contract, after the contract's up, doesn't matter who owns them at that point, they're out the door. You can't keep them. Number 7, yardage bonuses. The yardage bonuses are referring to the 3-point bonuses that a quarterback, a receiver, or a rusher gets when they get to certain thresholds. I went and audited those this year just to kind of see what they're at, and with the way that quarterbacks are throwing now, the quarterback one is significantly more common than it is for rushing or receiving. The bonus totals are 3 points, 3 bonus points at 300 yards, and it happened 110 times during the regular season. Rushing, it happens at 100 yards, and it happens 73 times during the regular season. And receiving, it happens at 125 yards, and it happens at 67 times during the regular season. So the question becomes: is do we want to leave the yardage bonuses as they are? Do we want to just completely eliminate the yardage bonuses because it's kind of random? And well, why is this random bonus in there anyways? I mean, that's something I thought maybe is an option. Or do we want to try to adjust the QB total up higher to kind of bring it in line with that number with rushing and receiving, where it's right around 70 times a year? So I'd have to look at what that number is. I haven't calculated it out at all, but it's something we can think about. Question number 8. Postseason free agent pickups. This is talking about the time after the regular season. So after 15 and 16, the eliminated teams are locked and they cannot pick up players. That may not be necessarily fair because whoever's still alive can go out and try to pick up somebody that, happened to be hot at that point, or grab somebody for next year as a potential keeper, when not every team has an option to actually pick those players up. We want to put a rule in place that says after week 15, no one can be kept. So basically, if you pick somebody up and you're still alive in the postseason, you wouldn't get to keep these guys next year. Or do we leave the existing rule in place and it's a nice bonus for anybody who's still alive in the playoffs? Question number 9 is draft budget leftovers. This year after the draft, Alex ended up drafting Mason Crosby for $18, which was just because, well, I got that $18 to spend. There's no point in wasting it. Well, what about, if we had changed that rule so that way any leftover money that you have at the draft would go into your free agent budget pool for the year? So let's assume that Alex had drafted Mason Crosby for $2 or $3. He'd had an extra $15 to spend during free agency during the regular season. Is that something that the league would be interested in, or do we just say, well, whatever's auction money is auction money, and free agency money is free agency money, and whatever? So the two options that we have for the vote here are the draft budget leftovers should be added to each team's free agency budget, or draft budget leftovers should go away after the draft like they do now. Question number 10, playoff seed rebalancing. This is one that I suggested, and I'm going to read what I wrote down because I actually wrote out something here. So, should the higher seed always play the lowest seed remaining? Right now, the way that Yahoo defaults is that the number 1 seed would normally play the 4 or 5 seed, and the 2 seed will play either the 3 or the 6 seed, assuming that it's going to be 1v4 and 2v3, assuming that the top 4 would go on. But it seems like the teams that usually in the 5 and the 6 spot win in the first round quite frequently. This season, the 1 seed played the 5 seed, and the 2 seed played the 6 seed. So the 1 seed had the harder schedule, despite, hey, I got the advantage. And it's one of the things, we've never had the 1 seed ever win, and this may be part of that. Had this been switched around to where the highest seed always plays the lower seed, the championship would have been Jason versus Chris instead of Jason versus Drew, and Chris would have been the champion instead of Drew. Sorry, buddy. I know that hurts probably a little bit. So the question becomes: is do we want to do something about that? Do we want to go to where the highest seed should always play the lowest seed, or do we want to keep the existing format where one plays the 4-5 winner and two plays the 3-6 winner? Question number 11: timeouts during the draft. This is something I wrote up. It came into play a couple years ago, and it really didn't matter at the moment, but I thought maybe we should actually get a rule in place, creating a draft timeout system. A couple of years ago at the draft, Josh had to work during the draft. He got a call, and he basically in the middle of the draft had to go do work stuff. So in that situation, the league started doing drafting for him, which was somewhat unfair to anybody because it was specifically it came up against Drew, is that he wanted a player and the league made a general assumption that Josh would spend his money and draft a particular player. That's not really fair, and I don't like that. That's the way that we handled that. So I wanted to get a rule in place around that. I proposed that each league member can call a 5-minute break at any given time. But once that 5 minutes are up or have already been used, that person will simply be excluded until all of the rosters have been filled. And then myself, I'm excluded from that because I'm the commish. I can call timeouts without limit, provided that it's not for my own gain. If I get a call for on-call work, then I can't just call timeout permanently. But if we still need timeouts because people need a bathroom or Chris needs to cook or something like that, that's going to be why I might call more than one timeout. So, do you think we need this rule? Do we not need this rule? What are your thoughts on this matter? Question number 12. It's pretty straightforward. Do you want to eliminate kickers, or should we keep kickers in? This is a popular question that comes up every couple of years, and it's going around on the Yahoo, or it's going around on the Reddit forums and the different forums that I look at for fantasy football. So, should we eliminate the kickers, or do we want to continue leaving a somewhat random position into our league? Question number 13, draft location. Should we shoot for the same location that we did last year, even including the same cabin, or should I be looking for something else next year? I thought the place we got last year was a great bang for our buck. It was fairly inexpensive, and I think it would be a good spot again this year. Question number 14 is payment methods. This is normally where you just tell me, do you want to be paid? How do you want to be paid, etc. I already paid Drew for his winnings, and Drew was very nice and kicked me a little bit money. Same thing that Jay did, which is nice. So that covers my video editing software. So the costs that I normally just shell out for the league are covered this year, which is really, really nice. So I thank you both for that. I appreciate that. And question number 15 is basically, I want to leave the league. We put this in there last year with a couple people that were like, hey, I want to get out. I don't have the time commitments. So this is a good way if you want to quit and you'd like me to try to find somebody to replace you. So please fill in here whether yes, I'd like you to try to replace me, or no, I want to come in and this year beat Drew and not Derek. So let me know. And that should be it. I'm going to hopefully edit this video up tonight, get this wrapped up, and send out the link with this and the survey and the video tonight. So have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.